You ever find yourself constantly thinking in circles? You finally have a moment to yourself, peace and quiet, except no peace because your brain just won't stop. It's stressing you out, so you fill the silence with music, podcasts, time with other friends, or other higher-risk ways to slow it down and numb the thoughts. Or maybe you have a project idea. You want to start a YouTube channel, maybe write a book, or start that small business you're always talking about. You've been thinking about it for weeks, months even. Every little detail, anything that might need to be thought through, you've thought about it. But what you haven't done is take action. This is overthinking. Overthinking can be a huge obstacle to both our well-being and our goals in life. Put simply, overthinking is the act of dwelling on certain thoughts or constantly anticipating a situation or its possible outcome. It can look like rehashing previous conversations, reliving past events, or even overthinking future events and imagining things going wrong. Overthinking can leave you mentally exhausted. It can produce anxiety, tension, and even health issues in the long run. In this video, we'll explore how to identify overthinking, the causes, types, and effects it can have, and finally, we'll share valuable tips on how to set yourself free from the overthinking trap. Signs of overthinking. If you've been wondering if you're overthinking a situation or concern, there are a few signs you can watch out for. These include an inability to stop thinking about one thing, feeling tense and unable to relax, fixating on things outside of your control, replaying past conversations and scenarios in your head, over-planning future events, second-guessing your decisions, and flip-flopping between different options, thinking of the worst-case scenario and over-planning how to deal with it, even when it hasn't happened. All of these signs, as well as feeling anxious or mentally exhausted, can be signs of overthinking. So why do we overthink? Overthinking is rooted in uncertainty. It becomes a part of our brain that wants to solve problems and minimize danger or failure. From an evolutionary perspective, our primal monkey brain would need to problem solve in order to stay alive and keep our family alive. Nowadays, we don't need to do that as much, but we still have the basic brain structure, neurotransmitters, and mechanisms in place that means that many of us are predisposed to overthink. Another reason we overthink is because it is encouraged by those around us. In Western society, intelligence and high IQ are celebrated. Good grades are rewarded at school, and well-paying jobs come to those who are intelligent, meaning that the more intelligent we are, the more praise we get. The problem is that intelligence is often associated with thinking. Now imagine you're doing a math test, and you spend a few minutes thinking about the answer to a complex algebra question. You write down your detailed workings, and you confidently write the answer down. You feel good about the level of thought you put into the solution, and you'll be rewarded for showing how you worked it out too. The time, detail, and thought you put into your work is a sign of thoughtful intelligence. However, if you rush through the question, don't work through your answer, and give less attention and thought to the problem, you might get the answer wrong. And even if you are correct, you won't be given any marks for showing how you tackled the question. More often than not, showing how you've thought about an answer is rewarded in exams. Sometimes even more than getting the correct answer is too. Thinking and intelligence often go hand in hand. If intelligence is praised, then so is thinking. This means that we have been conditioned to think more by the way Western society works, and in some cases, this can turn into overthinking. And sometimes all that overthinking can become overwhelming, and it helps to talk it through with someone who understands. If you found yourself resonating with anything we've discussed so far, our sponsor, BetterHelp, is here to support you. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professional and quality you'd expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who's custom-picked for you, with more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. BetterHelp has a special offer today where you'll get 10% off your first month. Just go to betterhelp.com/improvementpill. Thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. Now let's move on to the different types of overthinking. In the 1960s, psychologist Aaron Beck created cognitive behavioral therapy. Part of this therapy aimed to help the person identify when they would fall into thinking traps. Now, many of these thinking traps are associated with overthinking. But when you're aware of what they are, it can be hugely beneficial to your mental health and well-being. The three most common thinking traps are all or nothing thinking. Now, this involves only seeing situations in black or white, yes or no, all or nothing. Situations are a lot more complex than all or nothing. and understanding them from different perspectives is less rigid. Nothing is ever a total success or total failure, and knowing there's a whole spectrum of gray in between black and white can make all the difference. Catastrophizing. This thinking trap involves believing things are far worse than they actually are. For example, if you get stuck in traffic and this makes you late for work, someone who is catastrophizing can make this mean that they might lose their job and their life is over. In reality, being late for work once will not ruin your life, and it can be better to take a more relaxed approach. Overgeneralizing. Overgeneralizing is a thinking trap that involves judging a situation or event based on an expectation of what has happened in the past, when in reality anything can happen, and there are multiple outcomes for a situation. Cognitive behavioral therapy revolves around becoming aware of these thinking traps and testing whether these things are true. You can then reframe the thoughts to be less negative and more helpful. Now, you don't have to have this type of therapy to be more aware of how you're thinking. You can start to identify these traps in your thinking on your own, too. Next, how to stop overthinking. Now that we're experts on the ins and outs of overthinking, it's time to take action and get out of that overthinking spiral with these easy steps. Number 1, be aware. The first step to eliminating overthinking is to be aware that you're doing it. This involves mentally noting what you're thinking about and how much. Chances are, if you're watching this video, you're already on the way to being a lot more aware of your thinking. But try to catch yourself when you're lost in thought. Interrupting the flow of overthinking will help you gain back control. Number 2, stay present. Sometimes we can get stuck in our heads and caught up in our own thoughts. Sometimes anxiety can get the better of you. This is why it's important to slow down and stay present. Get out of your head and into the world around you. You can do this by spending time in nature, unplugging from tech, and lastly, grounding techniques like listing the things you can see, hear, and feel in the environment around you. Number 3, look at the bigger picture. In 5 years, will this matter? Is it worth your time and happiness to be spending so much energy on this? More often than not, it isn't, and looking at the bigger picture can help us get some perspective on the situation. Number 4, just do it. According to researchers, approximately half of the US population have a bias towards thinking, whereas the other half have a bias towards action. If you have a bias towards thinking, it may mean that you're more susceptible to overthinking. Now, taking action and just doing it can get you out of your head and start momentum. If you're struggling with this, try splitting up the tasks and doing little things to start. Often these little things will help you get into the groove and you'll want to take more action as a result. Number 5, allow yourself to suck. Perfectionism will only ever hold you back. We're often our own worst critics, but doing something badly is 1,000 times better than not doing anything at all. They say the best way to get good at something is to fail at it 100 times. And the quicker you learn to do that, the quicker you'll get good at it. So it's time to get busy. And there we have it, a comprehensive and in-depth guide to overthinking. Let us know in the comments one thing you're taking from this video and share any tips or tricks you've learned too. See you next time.